Welcome to Evening Tea, a slow after bedtime space for women who are exploring motherhood differently. Here we talk about the things you whisper about with your closest friends, the tender, the intuitive, and sometimes controversial. From pregnancy, home birth, to postpartum healing, vaccines, natural health, motherhood, parenting, identity, and everything in between. Nothing is off the table here. So pour yourself a cup of tea, take a deep breath, and settle in. I'm Kaya, and this is the conversation that you've been craving. Hi, everyone. Today's conversation feels very close to my heart because postpartum is something that we don't talk about nearly enough. It's not planned for, it's not explained, and it's definitely not supported in the way that it deserves to be. Um, so many women walk into postpartum without really knowing what to expect. Not because they didn't try, but because no one told them they needed to prepare for it in the first place. And I only know this information because I did it twice and because I lived in that middle space of not really knowing what to prepare. Um, the first time I gave birth and was postpartum, I struggled. I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know how to regulate my emotions or my nervous system or my expectations. And by the time I felt like myself again, I was pregnant with my second child. And when I got pregnant, I knew something had to change. There was no way that I was letting myself fall back into that dark, dark hole again. So I started learning, I started planning while I was pregnant. I built my village literally brick by brick. I included my friends in my support plan. I learned what nervous system support and regulation could look like. I reached out to professionals before I even gave birth just to know who felt aligned with what I wanted my postpartum to look like. I learned about movement, sunlight, fresh air, and how necessary those things are for early postpartum, and even in the smallest doses, so that when I did give birth, I wasn't starting from scratch. I was starting from step 5. More than anything, I wish someone had normalized reaching out for help before I needed it. And that's that's why this conversation matters so much to me. I want postpartum to be something that we talk about openly and loudly and proudly. I want women to feel like active participants in their care, not like they're just supposed to survive it quietly and alone. Um, Today I'm sitting down with Ruta Cohen, a postpartum doula whose work centers exactly this: what it's really supposed to look like to support a mother after birth. Not perfectly, not performing, but with honesty and with care. If you're listening to this pregnant or newly postpartum, or even years later and reflecting back, I hope this conversation feels like someone sitting next to you, reminding you that you're not alone and that you have permission and you should give yourself permission to feel supported. Rita, tell us about how you found your way into postpartum work.
Hi, Kaya. Thank you so much for having me on. Um, it's actually quite a story, um, but it didn't start from the story. I guess it starts from me being, just a friend, taking care of my friends, um, and, being single, living in Crown Heights, living with roommates. We all have to take care of each other, and we all have to kind of build our own community of single young ladies. And part of that is taking care of each other, whether we're sick, whether we're dating. I've married off, thank God, a lot of roommates, waiting for them after each date, debriefing the dates, supporting them emotionally, and of course, with my chicken soup that's always stocked in the freezer. And of course, as my friends get married and have children, helping them out there as well. And thank God, I've been able to create a community around myself with friends, where we take care of each other. And the story begins, I guess, when one of my friends, who, thank God, um, I've been very fortunate to be with her through a lot of different steps of her journey, through dating and marriage, and then until she had children, Baruch Hashem. Um, I one day get a call from her um, where she told me that she was in the hospital. Her birth did not go as she had planned, and something unfortunate had happened in her family that day. And people in her family were busy taking care of that family emergency. And unfortunately, she was left alone in the hospital after a horrible birth experience. And she was hungry and tired and needed to nurse her baby and in pain and dealing with the emotional effects of everything that was going on around her and feeling very alone. And luckily, it was a Friday, so I wasn't working that day. Um, and so I just rushed to the local bagel shop. I got food. I got in the Uber. I went to the hospital and I was able to be there for her until, another family member was able to come later on close to Shabbos. Um, that was my first time in a hospital in the postpartum unit. And that was my first time really helping out a mother really very closely after birth. And I learned a lot of things. I learned how to advocate. I learned how much I don't know about anything postpartum. I didn't know anything about what healing is supposed to look like. I didn't know what normal is supposed to look like. I didn't know how often the baby is supposed to eat. I didn't know anything about lactation. I didn't know anything. All I knew is that my friend needed me to be there with her and that I could not leave her alone until until she was okay and someone else was able to come and take me over. So that's kind of what started it all. After that experience, I said, listen, I have to learn more. I have to learn more. And so there I started my journey to becoming certified through DONA, which thank God I've been certified since last May. And thank God I've been able to help a lot of families through that journey. So, yeah.
Wow, that is an incredible origin story. Was there a moment when working with new moms, especially in those early stages of postpartum, really clicked for you that this was like a lifetime of what you wanted to do?
I think it just clicked with my natural talents, I guess, for wanting to care for my friends. Um, I love taking care of people. So I guess it just clicked with that. But postpartum, especially because, everyone forgets about the moms. Everyone's so excited about the new baby and everyone's gushing about the baby, and the baby is so cute. But everyone forgets about the mom. And I always, I love speaking to the moms and catching up and chatting and seeing how things are going. And so I really just love having that space where I can connect with the new mom as a person. And yeah,
I love that. When people hear the term postpartum doula, what do you think they imagine? And is there something that feels incomplete to you about it?
yeah, that's actually a really great question. I feel like when people imagine the term postpartum doula, they think, oh, a night nurse. Oh, someone to just come and wash all the bottles and take care of my toddler while we sleep, or someone to hold the baby while we go out on a date night, or something like that. And, there are night nurses and there are newborn care specialists who do those things. But for me personally, I like to take the approach where I'm kind of guiding the family into becoming a family plus one with their new addition, and helping the family navigate what it means to become a family with so much chaos. Every family unit has to become new again and again with every child. The dynamic changes, and so with that comes physical help, of course. There are postpartum doulas that help families at night. Personally, that's not something that I offer currently. Um, but that's something that a postpartum doula will do. Another thing that a postpartum doula will do is help the family um, with their household chores, like housekeeping. Um, Another thing is helping the family strategize, as issues arise. Another big thing is seeing issues as I mentioned, there are issues that will come up and figuring out what support resources are needed. A lot of families don't realize how much support and help is out there. Um, I'm referring to mental health. I'm referring to community resources. I'm very grateful that here in Crown Heights, we have Shifra Pua. There are so many organizations that help families struggling financially that just welcomed a new child. There are so many organizations that will help send meals to families that need it. And, the list is endless. So helping to connect families to resources that are out there because they might not even realize. Um, and some families don't feel like that they're the ones that should be receiving that help because most families in the community are receiving that help. There are a lot of families that don't realize that most people receive from community organizations, and I guess that's something that we can talk about later on about feeling uncomfortable to receive help. Um, But yeah, that's pretty much like a postpartum doula is there to help the family with their new dynamic, to help with the physical support as well as the non-medical, non-clinical emotional support. So, um, but yeah, I want people to know that postpartum doulas exist to help them in this area because once people experience having the help of a postpartum doula, they can never go back. They're always so grateful and so happy that they decided to have a postpartum doula by their side.
I'm sure. I'm sure. So, what does that support actually look like day to day? If a family hires you as a postpartum doula, what does your day to day look like there?
So what it looks like is that I'll come in, I'll see what's going on in the home, whether like what other family members are there, who needs a break, um, who's able to be helpful, delegating chores and tasks to the helpful people who are around, or sending away the people who want to be helpful but are not actually being helpful.
I think that's the most
Um,
important one.
and yeah, and also assessing what does need right now? What does dad need right now? What does baby need right now? If there are siblings, what do they need? And going from there, my priority is making sure that the parents get some kind of rest, have the ability to shower if they want to, and of course eat, sleep, shower is are the three main words in my mind. But I'm also noticing other things, do they have a regular cleaning lady? Is that something that's needed for this family? Um, if it's not my first time visiting their home, um, what's the mental health state of the family members based on how I saw them last time? Where are they at emotionally? And what can be done in the house besides for um, having family members help out if there's no one else. Is the mother pumping? Did they get a new pump? Do they know how to use it? Maybe I can teach them how to use it or watch a YouTube video, other baby products that they haven't had the time to open or figure out how to use. I'll put it together. I'll figure out how to use it, show them what to do. Um, and of course, hold the baby. If the mother feels like she wants to chat, like just sit and chat, talk about the birth, see how she's doing. Um, but yeah, like cleaning up, washing pump parts, washing bottles, and really making sure that the family feels like they don't need to remember a whole list of things to do. That I can just, chat with them and see what's going on and strategize from there in the moment.
Wow. You're really taking the mental load straight from them. It's incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
families really have a hard time with that, because they're so sleep deprived and so stressed out about so many things, and they have to call this person and they have to call that person, and they need to follow up with this and they need to follow up with that. And then they can just have a few moments to breathe and relax their nervous system, then they don't need to stress about what they need to do next. It will come. They'll figure it out.
wow. One of the things that I know I keep coming back to in my mother aura and in my experience postpartum with myself and with my friends in general is how little postpartum is actually talked about. And I want to hear from you. What are some of the things that mothers tell you they didn't expect postpartum to be like?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. Um, a lot of things or the two main things that moms don't expect is lactation or breastfeeding. A lot, like most people don't know what that's going to be like. I didn't know anything about it until I learned about it. And, and that, mental health is a big one, and lack of sleep and hormonal changes really have a big impact and big effect on mental health. So, though in my opinion, those are the two big factors that I find that a lot of moms struggle with because it's not something that they know about or expect. I find that when someone is expecting something or doesn't know what to expect, they can have a certain view in their mind of what something is going, an experience that they've never experienced before is going to be like. And then when those expectations are not being met in the moment, there can really be, I guess, that's really like a difference in the mindset that can really make it hard for people to be in the moment and understand what's happening to them or understand what they're going through. So when someone is so focused on their birth, which is so important, it is so beautiful to see mothers learn about their birth and focus on, who's going to be their provider, who's going to be their doula, who's what how they're going to birth, where they're going to birth, how's this experience for mother and baby. It's very exciting. And that's the thing that a lot of people feel like they need to prepare for because labor is a really big event in the family's life. And so it's very important to prepare. And it's something that a lot of people are afraid of. And so that's what they prepare for. That's what people talk about. People talk about their birth stories. But when it comes to postpartum, a lot of people see moms in the community pushing their strollers and everyone talking about how cute their baby is. And no one really talks about what it's actually like because it's hard and no one really talks about the hard stuff, you know, and it's something that people struggle with on a day-to-day basis. And so it's not so obvious that people need to talk about. So when someone is having their first child and all of a sudden they're hit with postpartum and they didn't realize that it's such a big shift in their life, that expectation of walking down the street with the cute baby in the carriage a day or two later, that's not the reality. And so that's where people find that they have a really hard time. And so that's what the mental health aspect I find. And of course, with breastfeeding, a lot of people, thank God, a lot of people in our community breastfeed, and it's very common to see moms, out in public with their nursing covers, breastfeeding their children. Um, at the same time, it just looks very smooth, very easy. I'm grateful my mom breastfed all of us, all me and my siblings, and I'm the oldest, so it was very normal to see my mom nursing us. But I always knew, like, I'm the first, I was the hardest, I was breastfed the shortest out of all my siblings, because it's hard. It is really hard, and it's a learning curve. And a lot of people just don't realize that.
Yep.
And so, yeah, that's something that a lot of moms really just don't know. And I find that when moms know what to expect postpartum and they and know to expect the unexpected and to expect that things are not going to be like 100% smooth sailing from the get-go, and that problems will arise and they just need to, you know, figure out in the moment how to problem solve. Things go a lot smoother and a lot simpler, and moms can really face what they're dealing with head on as opposed to just being in shock. Um,
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. It's a
it's
huge
so,
part of postpartum. It's insane.
yeah. I have to
What?
share a
Yeah,
story. Oh,
go for
sorry.
it. No, go for it. I love
I
that
just have to
story.
share a story about like this expectations. Um, I've, thank God, worked with a few mothers who had boys, and they, I've before the bris, I've been at their house and helping them, to prepare for the night before, or even the morning of. And they're like, how do people do this? I thought I would totally be fine by the time 8 days comes around because I go to so many bris and the mom is doing great and she looks beautiful and she's wearing a beautiful dress. And here I am and like I can't put on any clothes. Nothing fits. I want to be in pajamas. My body hurts. I could barely stand up if someone had a C-section. Like there's so many things and like they can't figure out breastfeeding and the baby's not eating well and the latch and they're not sleeping and what's going on? How come all these other moms look so put together at the bris? And I tell them that I have been to many families before the bris and the moms are just like them. All moms are the same before the bris because they are 1 week postpartum. And 1 week postpartum means mom should be in bed in pajamas and their body hurts. That's what it means. So, yeah, I just wanted to share that because without fail, every first time mom who's had a boy who I've worked with, I've had this kind of conversation with. So it's very common.
I could see that. You're saying this, and I literally had this experience, even though my son is my second child. So I did already experience postpartum, and it was after I did all the research and learning about postpartum and which professionals I wanted to work with and all of that fun stuff. And it got to like my maybe it was a 2 or 3 day checkup with my midwife, and I was like, "Oh, I'm nervous about the birth. Like the way I'm feeling right now, even in 4 or 5 days from now, like I'm not." I don't think I'm going to be ready to go to her birth. And she was like, well, why don't you just not go? And I was like, well, I can't do that. I can't not show up. And
Yeah.
she, she's not Jewish. So there's definitely a different level of how important it is to be at a birth 8 days postpartum. But literally, I had that spiral the night before my son's birth. And talking about having a boy, I'm so curious to hear from you. Um, how do moms react after the birth in terms of changing diapers? Because that is something
Yeah.
I didn't expect, and I was not emotionally prepared.
So
Yeah.
a lot of moms have their husbands take care of post-birth diapers.
That's what I
Um,
did.
yeah, because yeah, it's hard to look at and it's hard to be there, and you just dads, dads will do it. They will
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, that's literally what I did. I was like, you can when we were at the mile, like after the person was showing us what to do, I was like, you can show me, but there's no way I'm doing that. Yeah, and I'm just thinking
100%.
back to like my son's actual birth. I was present, like mentally present for the actual birth part. And the moment they handed me back my baby, I dipped. I was not in the room. I was nowhere to be found. I took my baby to the bathroom, nursed him, changed him. hung out there for like a solid half hour. And by the time I came back, almost everyone was gone. It was great.
Oh yeah, totally, totally valid. Totally valid. You are not the only mom who
I'm
wasn't,
sure.
it's hard. And like sometimes I feel like moms put pressure on themselves to stay and in the crowd of their friends at the bris and to socialize and chat and be there with their friends. And the friends also, they want to see their friend who's a new mom, they want to celebrate with her, but at the same time it's just really not the time to socialize.
Yeah.
So
Any
whenever
of my
I go
friends that
to
texted me, sorry, finish your sentence.
whenever I go to a bris, I always make sure that, I say hi to the mom when the ceremony is taking place, but after that, it's like, okay, you need your space. And, obviously, depending on how close I am with the mother or if I'm involved as a doula, managing who's around the mom to see, what she needs and if she needs space to go somewhere else. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
No, I love that. I love that you're conscious about it. It's so important. Yeah.
Yeah, friends
No, I was,
friends should be aware. It's not the time to socialize with the new mom. Make
yeah,
sure that she's comfortable.
exactly. And talking about the pressure that moms feel, in this case, to show up and be at the bris even after the ceremony, why do you think we put so much pressure on postpartum surrounding bonding and breastfeeding coming naturally or easy, which it doesn't? And like bouncing back. The whole bounce back culture doesn't sit with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, it's very unnatural. It's birth means that there was someone growing inside the mother, and then that the whole cascade of hormones that came together for the birth of this baby is now out of the mother. So now the baby's out of the mother. So now there's a space within the mother that's closing up, as well as a whole new cascade of hormones going through the mother's body to help her um with lactation and all other kinds of things. And yeah, I don't know why. I agree with you. I don't know why there's so much expectation for a mother to bounce back. I guess people are really comparing themselves to others, and there's like this whole cycle of like expectation and pressure, and then feeling bad about yourself because you're comparing yourself to others, and then you're expecting yourself again, and then there's like that whole circle that goes around and around. And I think it just comes back to not many moms speaking about postpartum because everyone's looking at the other mom thinking, oh, they're doing great. How come I'm not? When really, that mom put on clothing for the first time that week and went outside for the first time that week and is having the hardest time mentally, but outside she looks perfect and no one has any idea. And she's not sharing that she just had a fight with her husband and her mother-in-law and no one's helping her and she was allergic to the gluten in the dinner that someone sent last night, so she's hungry. And no one knows these things because no one talks about it. And of course, if she complains, someone's gonna laugh at her complaints or someone's gonna make her feel unworthy of complaining. And it just goes on and on and on. So I feel like, we kind of need to talk about it more,
Yes,
you know?
I agree.
I feel like if
Um,
more women shared their postpartum stories as much as they share their birth stories, I think there would be a lot more preparation for postpartum and normalizing the not bouncing back.
yes, that gives me an idea that maybe we should start a segment on evening tea for postpartum stories. If anyone
Ooh.
listening wants to come on and share, you know where to find me. I'm curious what kinds of care, especially in this um, framework of the pressure that women feel to bounce back and to bond and all these pressures that we put, what kind of care gets skipped over easily?
Oh, that's a really good one. I find that um, moms really forget to take care of themselves in whatever way that means, and like what helps them feel better, and self-care, whether it's getting movement, taking a shower. Um, but the main thing is feeding themselves properly. Um, I'm really grateful that I grew up, Hashem sent me certain challenges that I was forced to have to feed myself properly. Um, I guess that came out a little bit wrong, but it's very important for me personally that I get my animal protein 3 times a day with veggies and, you know, good fats and good fiber. It's very important to me. And it's also very important for me that my friends are fed. As I mentioned before, I always have my bone broth in the freezer waiting for them. But it really, proper food and proper nutrition is the baseline of healthy hormones, healthy mental health, healthy physical health. Um, and it's the baseline for everything. Like when I'm mad at somebody, it's probably because I'm hangry, you know? And it's probably because I didn't get to eat my breakfast yet. So it's really important to me that moms get proper meals, that they eat, that they take care of themselves, because with that baseline, they have the energy to take care of their families. So
Yeah, I love that. It's so important, and you're 100% right. It's literally so skipped over. Um, I remember like my first time postpartum, I forgot to eat lunch every day for days on end, and
for sure.
it affected me severely. Um, and when I was doing all of this preparation when I was pregnant with my second child to be prepared for postpartum, one of the things I did was I messaged one of my friends and I said, "You are in charge of texting me every day between 12 and 1 and making sure that I ate lunch or I'm preparing lunch or I have lunch planned." And she did for a while. I think it was like 2 or 3 months that she went on texting me every
Whoa.
day to make sure I ate
Oh, what
lunch.
an amazing friend.
It was
Amazing friend.
incredible. It was it was the best thing I could have done for myself because I knew, like, just based on my experience after my first baby, I knew that like skipping lunch does not look good for me. It means crashing in the afternoon. It means getting upset at everything and everyone around me for simply the reason that I'm hungry. Um, it was so
Right.
important. So I'm glad you
Yeah,
mentioned that.
it affects everything. Healthy food is the basis of good, healthy hormones, which postpartum is a time of hormones rebalancing, readjusting, and of course, they're the basis of good lactation. So really, really, really important.
Um, Something that really changed everything for me the second time around was planning before birth. Like I said, even just setting up that friend to text me for lunch. Um, what does supportive postpartum planning actually look like when it's done gently?
Mm, that's a really good question. Um, Postpartum planning is one of my favorite things to talk about, actually, because when a mother prepares, she is really set up for success. Um, she's calm, she's confident, she knows what to expect. She has her community around her, and she can take on any challenges that really come her way. Um, I guess I'll share a story and then I'll share what I do with the postpartum plans with my clients. Um, there is a good friend of mine reached out. This was not her first child. She reached out for postpartum support, and I wondered, like, you have a bunch of kids, like, why are you reaching out to me? You know what to expect. But I didn't say anything because I knew, postpartum is different for everybody. And obviously, she feels like she needs a lot more support than she had previously. And so I'm happy to provide that for her. And we spoke about in our postpartum plan, what happened the other times that she gave birth, what kind of support she had then. what kind of support she's looking for currently. Um, and then she had an emergency and her baby was in the NICU for a long time. And I thought to myself, wow, thank you, Hashem, that I was able to be here for her, that she scheduled me in advance, thinking her I would just be extra set of hands with her postpartum support. And here I am, you know, and I'm able to be here for her family while she's going through a really, really crazy time with her baby in the NICU. And I feel like that story is really important to share because Hashem just put it in her intuition that to know that she needed more support this time around. And she wasn't expecting it. It was totally unexpected. The birth was beautiful. It was amazing. Everything was totally fine. And then, like a few days later, she needed to go to the NICU. Like, this was totally not something that, I mean, no one really plans to be in the NICU, but this was totally, totally unexpected. And of course, she was very grateful that, she had planned for me to be there so that I could be there for her family. So, postpartum planning, what does that look like? Um, I ask a lot of personal questions. I ask what number pregnancy this is. If it's a first time mom, I ask them what their concerns, what their fears are, what they know about postpartum. And if they don't really know much about postpartum, it's my opportunity to share what they could or couldn't expect. I ask them about their mental health history. They don't need to go into too much detail, but it's important. What I do tell moms is that, or expectant moms, is that with regards to your mental health, if you are seeing a therapist, please make sure that you plan to continue after you give birth. If you have underlying mental health conditions or diagnoses, to make sure that you speak to your therapist or your psychiatrist about what to expect postpartum. I also assuage their fears that most medications can be taken while breastfeeding, and their psychiatrist might not know that. So that's something that can help them feel better if breastfeeding is something that's important to them. Um, People do have fears about, if, let's say, they don't really have a history of anything with mental health issues, they have a fear. They heard about postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety. They heard about it as this term and this thing to be afraid of. So we speak about what that means, with regards to their personal life. We speak about their environment, how it's set up, their other community support, um, who they're expecting, who are the other people they're expecting to help out. Um, and I encourage them to take note of what their baseline mental health situation is like, because everyone has their ups and downs, and everyone has the times that are hard for them and times that are happy and sad, and everyone knows their baselines. And it's also, people know their spouse's baselines, because you've been living together for a long time. You should know, where each other are and what your baselines are, and to really take note that if you see something, say something. And if you see that your spouse is struggling harder than usual, to bring it up and be like, hey, I'm noticing, like, are you okay? Like, is maybe there's space here to bring some more help in. So that's a big one. I encourage pregnant moms to seek out lactation support before they give birth. That's something that a lot of people are surprised to hear about. Um, and what encouraged me to bring this up to moms who are um, still pregnant is because I know that there are different breasts come in all shapes and sizes, and then there are different kinds of breasts with different kinds of tissue and things like that. And some women don't even realize that they might have an issue with the shape of their breast or anything like that, um, until they want to breastfeed and it's going a lot harder than they expected, or they think that, they're going to be able to breastfeed, and then, something happens and, they can't, and they have to use formula, which is something that or donor milk, which is something that they didn't plan on. Also, a lot of moms can learn different techniques and learn about the science of breastfeeding while they're still able to get a full night of sleep as much as they can in their ninth month of pregnancy. I don't know how much sleep is happening, but definitely more sleep than with a newborn. So being able to sit and listen to the lactation consultant and learn from her in a space where you're more open to learning because you're more you're not struggling to balance all the different difficulties that come with having a newborn and the joys of having a newborn. Um, so that's really, really, really important. Also, lactation consultants will coach moms on how to manually express colostrum before before they give birth, because a lot of women, the closer they are to giving birth, they can express colostrum and save it. And I do know that some families, they save the colostrum and it really, really, really saved their child's life after birth because the mom, whatever complications were happening after the birth that were unexpected, they had that colostrum saved in the freezer in order to give their new baby.
Wow.
So those are the big ones. But yeah, we talk about who's going to be feeding you, who's going to be cleaning your house, who's taking care of your other kids, um, how much sleep can you run on, what are you like, without sleep, what are your favorite snacks, and encourage new moms to speak to their husbands about each other's expectations of what postpartum will look like.
That's so important. If there was one thing that you would say is the most helpful to have in place ahead of time, what would that be?
I would say knowing who your people are that you can call on in an emergency, um, knowing which friend that you don't mind coming over when you're in your pajamas and your house is a wreck and you're hungry and tired, and knowing, who can be there for you in these times. Um, that's really the most important because at the end of the day, the most important thing is to not feel alone. I mean, that's the whole point of being a postpartum doula, really, is to help the family not feel alone. Everything just feels so much lighter when you don't have to carry that load all by yourself. Um, and when you feel like, and sometimes when you're going through it day in and day out, you feel like you're the only family that's going through this. Like you're in your own family bubble and you don't see anything outside of you because everything is so intense. And you don't even realize like so many other families are going through the same exact thing. And yeah, so to not
So
feel
having
alone
your
and know,
people.
have your people. Yes,
I love
exactly.
that. This is a more intrinsic question, I would say.
Okay.
Why is it so hard for mothers to ask and receive help?
This is a good question, and I relate to it so much as like me personally because I'm always the one taking care of others also. Um, and reaching out for help is so hard because it feels overwhelming. Like, who do I call? Are they going to want to listen to what I have to say? Are they going to have the time for me? Um, it can also feel like, wait, how come I don't have it all together? Everyone else has it together. Like you're comparing yourself to what you think other people are doing. Um, there are feelings of not being good enough, of, not feeling worthy, um, feeling like you need to martyr yourself. Like, I'm tough. I can ride this out. I can do it. I'm a tough person. Like, only people who are never need help, which is so, so not true. And you're not fooling anyone when you don't reach out to help. Um, yeah, and it's so hard because I've been to some families where they needed extra hands or extra resources with different areas, whether it was mental health, whether it was breastfeeding, whether it was financial aid. And thank God I was there. They knew to have me there. They knew to call me. Um, but when it's time to bring up that difficult conversation of, hey, it might be time to, ask a therapist about this or whatever um, topic the family is struggling with, I can prepare the family as much as possible. I can send resources. I can offer to sit next to the mother while she makes a phone call. I can do whatever I can. I can offer to watch the baby while the mother goes and does what she needs to do. But if the mother is not going to reach out for help, she's not. And there's nothing that I can do about it, which is really, really, really hard. And that's not something anyone could do except the mother herself. Um, and yeah, I guess that's the journey that this mother is supposed to go on, where the first time around, not asking for help, it feels like the strong thing to do. Um, but really, the strong thing is to reach out for help. It is the bravest, hardest thing that a mother can do. And when she does it, it it changes everything. And she feels like she did the biggest thing. And it wasn't so scary in the end. When she's past that hurdle, she looks back, why was I stressing about it? This is so great. This is so helpful. Now my mind is expanded. Now I can do more things. Now I don't need to struggle in this. Like, why do we punish ourselves with struggle? We don't need to struggle. So yeah, I feel like it's so universal as women, that we really feel like we need to carry the world on our shoulders.
Yep.
We
Literally.
don't. We don't need to. That's why we have
Mhm.
community. That's why we need to help each other. We're not meant to
Yeah.
do this ourselves.
Yeah. Literally, that's the whole concept of having a village. It's having people you could lean on and people who are going to be there to support you no matter what you're going through, people who you can tell anything to with no judgment and just have that space to open up and reach out for that help. And I'm curious to hear from your perspective, what shifts when a mother finally feels held and supported after reaching out for help?
Yeah. She just doesn't feel alone anymore. She feels like she can take care of her family. She feels like she can do it, and she feels comfortable to reach out for more support and to also continue to be a giving person in her community, but understand that it's all a cycle anyways. Sometimes you're receiving help from your neighbors, sometimes you're bringing a meal to your neighbors, sometimes you're asking your neighbor to watch your baby, sometimes you're offering to watch your neighbor's baby, and they feel empowered and that they can actually raise a family. um, it's like a really Pru'ervu is the first mitzvah in the Torah, and raising a family is also one of the hardest. It is chinuch and raising children. Like, it's hard. People really struggle. People complain about it a lot, and people need to put a lot of thought into it. It's a big deal. And so for women who are expecting themselves to do it alone, um, when they feel like they are supported, then they feel like they can do it. They can do this huge mitzvah of, having a family and bringing more children into the world, and that they could have more children. And yeah, it's really, really, really important for us to help each other out.
Wow. Yeah. It's I found that it's so powerful when a woman finds her voice and is able to like break that barrier of reaching out. It changes everything.
It changes everything. It's so empowering. It's so, so, so empowering.
If someone is listening right now in the middle of the night, either they're close to giving birth or they have a newborn, What do you want them to hear and take away from this discussion?
Hmm, this is a good one. You know, I'm just imagining so many different scenarios of moms. Like, this mom is up with her baby because her baby's not going to bed at all and has been up for the past 5, 6 hours and
So
is
relatable.
falling asleep. And then this mom is like, you know, just feeding her baby in the middle of the night. And this mom is, wearing her baby while washing her palm cards. And this mom, there's so many scenarios of what's going on. And every mom is probably thinking, oh my gosh, this is like monotonous day in, day out. I just need to get some sleep. And, when will this be over? Even though, yes, my baby's really cute. Um, I guess it's like you're not alone in this. There's so many moms in your situation and you're here, and in 6 months, you're not going to be here because your baby's going to be in a different age and a different stage, and you're going to be in a different age and a different stage of your postpartum health and your postpartum journey. And each stage brings its own ups and downs and joys and challenges. And in another 6 months, you're going to be experiencing another set of joys and challenges. And you're going to be looking back at this moment like, whoa, that was really hard. I can't believe I did that. Or, whoa, my baby was so cute and tiny then. Or, whoa, do you remember when I had such a hard time like breastfeeding and now 6 months later, like this is going a lot better, There's so many different stages. Babies change so quickly within their first year of life that, um, you wanted this. Like, you were so excited before you gave birth. You were so excited to have this baby. And I do want to acknowledge moms who were not excited to have this baby and um, also were not, yeah, they didn't plan to have this baby. I am acknowledging you moms also. And you also are not alone. There is community for you as well. Um, but also like now you're here. You're here, be here, you're not alone, and be here, be present. Um, and yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say, I guess.
That's it's so powerful. It's so incredible what community can do. As we're closing, I keep thinking about how much postpartum changes when women feel supported and like really held and supported without being rushed, without the expectation to bounce back, and without the pressure that they should be okay when they're very clearly not okay. If you're listening in postpartum, I want you to know that needing help does not mean you're failing. It means you're human, you're allowed, and you're encouraged to reach out, as you just heard. Reach out for emotional support, for practical support, for reassurance, even just for a chat. Your friends want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. And if you're still pregnant, I hope this conversation gave you permission to start thinking about postpartum now, not with pressure, but with confidence. You deserve care in that season just as much as your baby does, because you're not meant to do it alone, and you don't have to earn support by struggling first. Thank you so much, Rita, for joining us. And thank you for sitting with us and for giving postpartum the space it deserves.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for spending this time with me. If this conversation stayed with you, consider sharing it with another mom who might need it too. Until next time, trust your intuition, move gently, and take care of yourself. Good night, mamas.